I set up these hangouts so that we could meet up, talk, and discuss motion graphic stuff. And well, actually, animation in general, because the next one is not going to be motion graphics, it's going to be on design or 3D. But I'm just gonna keep mixing them up and making sure they're informative and you guys learn something new every time. Um, so let's get started with the HUD stuff. So generally, when I work, I try to put in as much time as possible into planning and pre-production. If you've worked with a project that say has a deadline, a really crazy deadline, especially, or you're working on a budget and the artists that you're going to be working with in the future are probably going to be expensive if you're going to be doing back and forth. Like for example, you have an illustrator and you only can use them to draw stuff for you twice or three times, and after that it becomes expensive. So when you're planning, it's very important you plan so that you make sure whatever you get at the end of the day is what you want. And also this applies to yourself. You don't want to apply too much time and too many resources into something, and then at the end of the day it turns out you have to start over or you have to go back. And this is something I'm going to be covering pretty much every time. But yes, we all have buttons, and we all have that one big red button in us that when you press it, you feel nice. So there's a button for you've watched something nice, you've eaten something nice, you've gone somewhere fun. Every time that happens, you push the button. Your brain pushes this button and tells you, good job, whatever you just did was dope, do it again. There's this saying that if we had control to push this button ourselves, all we do all day is just sit in the house and just continuously press this button repeatedly, keep ourselves feeling fulfilled and happy and enjoying ourselves. But unfortunately, life doesn't work like that. The big red button has to be pushed by something from outside. Now that's a general life thing, but in this specific context, I'm talking about using the button to make sure that your art looks good, looks awesome, and to do this, we have to push buttons. So you can imagine that everyone has some internal set of buttons, like a wall of buttons like this. And what we're doing as animators, as designers, illustrators, everything we're doing in art is pushing buttons. Not necessarily software buttons, but buttons in someone's head. So when you do a nice design of, let's say, a really nice design of someone's a portrait, you're pushing, when someone sees it and they really like it, it means that it's pushing multiple buttons that they like. So good color theory, we could say good color theory is this button. There's let's say they have a thing for red. They really like stuff that's hand drawn, or they like black and white. So we're really trying to push as many buttons as we can when we're doing our work. And the more buttons we push, the better it looks and the more feelings people get out of them. So when you come to now designing your own work, you're also trying to figure out what these buttons are and how your work can push them. And every time you're making a new design or iterating, you're trying to find a way to push more buttons. So I hope that makes sense. If you ever see something that you really like, and we're going to be doing that from this point onward, you find something you really like, just ask yourself, what are the buttons that this work is pushing? What is it I see in this that makes it particularly good for my eye? And guess what? That's actually what becomes the art we do, because as you grow, you learn more ways to excite people, more ways to show people what they like to see. And us as artists, we're just arranging all these buttons for ourselves in our own style, in our own, whatever philosophy. You can go on all day about this stuff. But I hope that idea in general makes sense. If there was a question, I would take it now. Any question? Anybody? You guys got any questions? I'm kind of... Okay, cool. No stress. I'll mostly just be showing things about the deleting. I'll mostly just be showing, so... yeah. So let's keep going. So pushing buttons. So remember the buttons, we're going to get back to that throughout. So this is the 4-step process we're going to take. The first step is research. This is going through the net, going through stuff we've done before, movies, anything related is the research phase. So we're just going through and checking out stuff, because really you can't really just see something, just decide to do something and do it. Like, you can't just decide to design a car and you'll get a car that looks good and appeals to someone who's seen multiple cars before. So what you want to do is first train your brain to understand what you're about to do. So research is looking up images, looking up videos, tutorials, all that kind of thing, just to get your head in that headspace of, I'm just about to produce a HUD. Then we go into planning, which is now we take all the information we've gotten from research, we push it into what we're actually going to do for ourselves. That's going to be planning it as far as possible, the colors, the fonts, the arrangements, everything as far as we can go. We're going to do it on pen and paper, or say in Photoshop or something. And then we execute. So once we have our paper on the side, we know what the colors are, we know what the arrangement is, we know how it's going to animate and all that stuff. Now we're sitting inside Illustrator to create the elements, and sitting in After Effects to create the elements, and then we animate them and make them look awesome. So something about this executing step, compared to, say, the typical workflow where or my workflow where I never used to plan, I used to do these two together, planning and planning and execution. And that's when, you have a design to do, you just open up After Effects and just start throwing things around and hope something will work. So I found that wasn't quite ideal, because sometimes you can't really get what you want, and when you're going back and forth between these two, you can't really focus on either. So as you're planning on one thing, you're thinking about how you're going to execute it, and then you're trying to execute it while also trying to figure out what color it should be. It's crazy. So you can't really work like that, not for a long time. So the best step to take is to, someone's mic is on, I can hear you. Is that you, Ninja? Okay, so planning. So planning and execution. So what we're going to do instead is do planning on its own, execution on its own. And now what's going to happen is, when we're planning, we're focusing exclusively on planning. We're not even thinking about execution. And when we're executing, we're not thinking about the design and colors and stuff. We're worrying about what plugins to use, what size to make the composition, technical stuff. So separate. That's pretty important. And then finally, improve. So, whoops, what did I just do? I just screenshotted. Right. So finally, we improve. So take the stuff you've done so far based on the planning and the execution. Obviously, you're going to get new ideas as you're going along, like, oh wow, this looks really cool, let me add, say this and that and that. And all that process is pretty fine. But the cool thing is that now, since we've done the planning and the execution exclusively, when we come to improving, we're improving something that's already good. So the improvements we're adding are making it even better. And yeah, that's pretty much the basis of how I usually operate with such projects. So let's figure stuff out. Let's go to research and start thinking about how we're going to create our own HUDs. So some important things to note while we're doing this is, we need to forget about software, forget about technical. Don't look at something and say, how am I going to execute that in After Effects? We don't think about that. We'll worry about that when we get there, and I'll probably make that point as we're going along. Take things one step at a time. So if you're thinking about A, B, C, think about A first, get done with it, go to B, get done with it, go to C, get done with it. Don't try to do them all at the same time. Don't get distracted. So YouTube is particularly notorious of getting you lost in a rabbit hole of ridiculous videos. You're going to end up looking at dumb stuff, and that can really waste time. So don't get distracted, just focus on what you're doing and what you're looking for. Observe. So observe is, don't just look at it as something is playing. Try and figure out what's pushing your buttons? What about this thing you're seeing is really nice for you and making it work for you? Because those are the things you're going to pick up and put into your work later on. And finally, compare the good versus the bad. So it's nice to look at the really dope animations from Avengers and all these cool movies, but you should also look at the bad so that you can see what it's doing wrong, so that you also know what to avoid when you're doing your own piece. So look at the good, look at the bad, and not necessarily in the same piece. I'd even say go out of your way to find bad examples of HUDs, which is something I did and something I'll show you. So onward to the references. So there's this site, HUDs and GUIs. It has a really comprehensive page. It goes further. There's older, and there's some really interesting stuff about HUDs. And the writer of this site goes out of his way to really demonstrate why he likes them. And like in this Halo one, he goes through and breaks down like all the different ways that people are interfacing with the UI. So I'd suggest you check that out. Unfortunately, the site is crazy slow because it has a lot of GIFs and high-res images. This is probably something I'm going to leave playing in the background. Oh wait, I loaded it before. So we have here grab and drop actions. So it explains how sort of picks it up, drops it there, expands it with her hands. Interesting breakdown there. There's summoning content, how she sort of drags down and the object comes towards her, which is really cool. Smart selection, so she draws a selection and then it refines. That's a really cool effect. Could we use it probably somewhere? This is nice, sort of the bringing out the files and then they pop out like holograms. Pretty awesome. So this is a really nice site to check out if you're really looking for psych and looking for ideas to poach. One thing that is really interesting also is there's a book. So if you come here, FUI, the book, futuristic user interface, it'll give you it's just a really interesting book on all this stuff, and it's pretty cheap. I think it's $10. So if you're really planning on going deep into all this stuff, I'd suggest you check out the book. So even now, as I'm sitting here looking at this pic, I'm asking myself, what is it that I like about it? Why did I even click on it? What about it makes it look so cool? So I can close and say, look at it from here. I really like this circles, and I like these two sort of idle circles here that are not breaking the symmetry. There's these arcs on the sides. There's a nice thin line out here. So it kind of looks like a planet system, like this is a planet, and there's I guess a craft is flying along this line. I like the dots around it, the glow. There's a very subtle lens flare over here. There's these lens effects. Those look really cool. So that's something I'll probably pick up in a design of my own. So as you pick up on this stuff, you grab your notebook and just write down all the cool stuff you see. So here we have the sky. It seems asymmetrical, but we also have this on this side, this on this side. It has this liquidy sort of look on it, which is pretty cool, but I'm not sure it's quite really showing anything. It doesn't look like it's really showing anything in this context, so not cool. I guess it's that room that we saw before, different design examples. This is also pretty cool. The glow is on one side. Down here it's dark, but it's one full circle. There's a nice lines cutting across, these little dots going around. So all this stuff is what you want to look at and take note of, right? Cool. So check out HUDs and GUIs, really cool site. I also have a Pinterest link that I found, which has a bunch of HUDs. So here you can see there's actually quite a number of them. There actually a lot. Like this goes on for quite a while. So this is also a pretty good place to check out different styles of HUDs, as well as get yourself linked to where it originally came from. So check this out. I guess I could post the link. So there's this Pinterest link. I've posted it in the chat. So just do the same. It's sort of the same idea that we had. Scroll through, see one that's interesting, click on it. Try and figure out why exactly you liked it so much, the point that you clicked it, and just keep searching. I like these, especially the symmetry they have. Like one side seems to be a copy of the other, but both sides are showing different things. That's pretty nice. I'm not a big fan of this camera sort of icon in the middle, because I feel like if that was in front of my face, that would really be blocking a lot of the information I'm probably looking at. So I'll also remember that maybe leave some space in the middle. Right. Oops. Sorry. Okay. So that's a really cool page. I've gone through a lot of sites and stuff and just singled out all the posts I really like. But those are two places you can check out on your own. When you come to doing your own HUDs. So here's another example. This is from Avengers, the first Avengers movie. I weirdly enough actually liked these at the time, but now not so much. I don't know. I think it's the gray sort of glass. They're just so edgy, and there's so many of them. I don't know. I'm not a big fan. I really like this and these on the side, the numbers, and these little windows that are sort of on top of everything else. That's a cool idea, but the glass itself not so much. I mean, it's nice, but I think it could be a little bit better now. Then let's see another one. This is from Splinter Cell Blacklist. It had a very, very dope style, especially when you're going through the menus. They used a lot of boxes and grids and this sort of posterized colors on every object. Everything was just this greenish color with red and blue just popping things out. But generally, it looked very army, very briefing like. If you've also played Call of Duty, they had these loading screens that had graphics on them and about the same thing. They had these really cool animations actually. So check those out as well. Those are really dope. So what I like from this one is the grid. The way the grids have been done with the lines and sort of leaving gaps where they intersect. I also liked some of the transitions that they used. I'm not sure if I put it here, but if you look at this bottom row, you can see these grid boxes, and then the back button here sort of covers three boxes, and then friends covers another 3 boxes, and then this mission active covers 6 boxes. So sort of everything was arranged in a way that it fits into the boxes. And if you saw the demo I did done for the email, I actually used this concept of the grid and the boxes, but I'll show you that because that's way later anyway. Next, Dead Space. This is also a pretty dope game. What I liked about it is the tiles, the way the tiles have been done. You can see the way this middle row sort of is like the how do we say, it's like the axis, the plane. So on this side they're all facing to the right like this side they're all facing to the left. Ooh, I have a pen. So here they're facing this way, these are facing this way, and then this is sort of like one of them just mirrored in half. So that's a really cool effect. The same seems to be happening here, since these are on the left side of the page. They're all like sort of the right facing style. Ooh, this mouse is sensitive. Oh my goodness. Let's try those again. Here we go. Yes. These are all facing this way. So there's like a rule that's being followed, like down this line. All these face this way, all these face this way. And I know what you're thinking. Dude, you're nitpicking. But no, I'm not. Your brain actually subconsciously picks up on these designs. So another cue that this is playing off of is also Isaac's design. So you can see here how these are shaped, the panels, and the sort of panels going down his body. So they have the same thing here. It's going that way. I guess on the other side it's also doing the same. So it's kind of like mirroring this spine panels on the side. We have here spine and then panels going that way. Might be nitpicking, might be a lucky thing that just happened to happen, but I think that's a really cool detail, whether intentional or not. Yeah, so even the headers of these boxes sort of have the same design. If you look at this and this, they're kind of similar. So that's something I really liked. I think that's pretty cool. Another thing to point out maybe is how there's like a hierarchy system. So we have here inventory, and then it kind of looks like a hierarchy chart. Oops, my bad, sorry, I thought I was still on Epic Pen. It looks like a chart going like this, and even this looks like a bracket that's just holding. This looks like brackets holding it like this. Oops, no, this is more like here, and then another piece starts here, and then this one is kinda on its own down here, and then this one seems to be on top of everything somehow. It's like it's a layer that's on top of everything. That's pretty dope. And then this looks like a sort of like these come, and then this sort of slides out. So this node is here, and then this panel slides out. This header is here, this slides out, and then this looks like it closes. So this is probably this way, and then it opens this way. So that's some cool stuff from Dead Space. The same thing happens over here. If you actually check out all the versions of Dead Space, they all follow this sort of design rules. Okay, on to a few more random ones. So these are from different places. These two are from Avatar. This, I believe, should be Avatar as well. I'm not quite sure. I got a bit lost somewhere. But these two are definitely from the same show. And I turned the page again by mistake. But there we go. So these are pretty nice. I like this one for being very simple, very army-like. I'll show you some army stuff a bit later. It's probably like 2 slides down. I'll show you some army stuff. But this looks very army-like. Like if this was a ship designed by the army and they legit were doing the interface themselves, this is how they would do it. And one of the rules that, okay, we'll get to army stuff. This is another cool one. It has that segmentation as well, so you can tell this panel is sort of dedicated to telling you a story about the ship. We have this circle, and all these just look related. I really like when elements just, even though it seems like random shapes, you can kind of tell that there is some connection to what's going on, because God knows what this is supposed to mean, or what. Okay, this probably means the engine is dead, so that's really cool that you can just look at it and tell it's probably a notification of something and an indication of something. So that's dope. This looks random, and all this stuff down here I'm sure is just random numbers, random letters, and these are just random icons to just fill in the screen. Here are those. Yes, this is Avengers. Because of this glass design. I've just seen them. This is the Queen Jet. Was it the Queen Jet or the one for the carrier one? Discuss 10 marks. It's all up to you guys to try and remind me. Alright, so that's that one. This one I also like because of the really thin shapes. You have little dots, you have grids that are happening over here, you have all these lines that are really cool. They all seem to be connecting and showing relations to stuff. You have a progress bar here. I guess this stuff up here is not necessary. I don't think it is. And then we have little blocks of random text, which is something you find a lot. Another thing that makes this dope is also that you have the screen, and you seem to have some other just as complex stuff happening in the background. So it looks like this is actually busy, like someone's actually using this system or computer, and they're multitasking while doing that. Same goes here. It kind of looks like it's all one, but you can see like this box and this box and this box are just floating. They seem to be dedicated. Same goes for these audio files down here. These icons are pretty cool because they're down here. They're probably the ones that are like this is this, and this is this, and then these are closed, I guess. And then by the way, not necessarily that is what they planned or that's what they're doing, but as for me, when it's pushing my buttons, as I was saying earlier, it's just the idea that these might be related to something it's something I like. It's something that's working for me. Same is also these little corner bits that are happening here, and then these the gradients that are happening inside the box, and also these lines that are only at the top and the bottom. They're really cool. Like this one up here, down here. So I guess this is like a pop-up, and the original window is this one behind. Who knows? Probably not. Probably just a guy put stuff together and it just looks good. It's like, who knows? Yeah. So, let me take to you guys. Since you guys are, oh, excuse me. You guys are here and you appear to have mics. At least some of you. Can you see this? Can you see this?
Jump in there.
Sure.
Oh shit, sorry. I'm on the desktop and I'm also on phone. My desktop does not have a mic, so sorry.
Sir.
Also didn't have backup. So that thing in the center, I think that's like the whatever the viewfinder, like where you look through Robocop's view. So that would be the targeting crosshair thing, if I'm not wrong, because
This, eh?
target lock
Yeah.
you get, and then you have the distance meter, the C2, where where the cursor was just now. That looks like the distance meter.
Hapa chini.
And it's like it has the left and right whatever's you get. So like the black, yeah. So the black would be like basically what Robocop's view.
Yeah, this area, right?
Yeah.
This would be
That's what I think.
of him looking out.
Oh,
Yeah, it should be. Ooh, typo. Yeah.
It's kind of flat. Like they could have done more. Cause okay, maybe it's cause of it was the age, like the time.
Mm-hmm.
Cause in my thinking, like if you think this guy is a cybernetic, what is a cybernetic? Not
Cop,
cybernetic,
yeah.
is what do they call them?
Cyborg.
Human and also
Cyborg.
machine. Yeah, yeah. So you'd have like heuristics. You could have something like heart monitor there. You get.
Yeah.
You get.
Yeah, sorry, just say that again.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's I think personally that it's too busy. Like are these necessary? Like you start wondering what they're doing. And the moment someone's thinking what is the purpose of this, you've already lost them. So I think even with our own design, when we're doing our own, we should remember that if we're putting stuff in, it should look like it's doing something.
True.
It's not just a random scale. Also, my issue with this scale here, I think it would make more sense if it was vertical, because when do you measure something diagonally like this? It's usually either like this or like this, but not diagonal. So it's just like, what is Robocop? What are you doing, bruh? Anyway, yeah. There's some more down here.
Find a video.
Sorry?
Let me see if I can find a video. Maybe I would understand it better because I also don't understand what the hell.
Yeah.
A triangle targeting system.
Like you just need to know if you've targeted them or not. Like is the guy in the middle or not? Yes, sour, fire. But this not so much. Alright, have a look at that. There's also here more info like primary targets. I like these lines as well. These ones that came from the other one I showed before, where you have lines going like this. Those are really cool. Also this grid I'm a fan of. Not so much the red dots, but just the grid in general. I like how it looks. Then we can come down here. So this one is yet another example of what is all this. Like, but I'll give this one benefit because it looks cool. At least it looks cool. Yes. Yes. Now we're talking. It's a plane. Planes tend to have a lot of gyroscopes involved in terms of measuring. So it would make sense that, the roll and all that stuff is being shown by this. But it's not readable. Like, what's the angle right now? You can't really. There's no way to see it. Now, actually, let me just make one clarification. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to show that it's reading, but it should at least just make some sense. Here's another example of just making some sense. Here we have a bunch of graphs. Not bar graphs. What are these called? These radial graphs. So these, you can tell all this is measuring something. But what I wanted to show you guys specifically is this section here. What is this? It's not very clear what it is, but I like it. I just like how it looks. So can we say this is something that doesn't have to make sense? Or maybe it's making sense in a way to me? Well, how'd you guys feel?
Yeah, like the grid kind of looks interesting.
It does. The fact that some are on, some are off. These middle ones are all on. It's dope. Maybe these are related to this. I think it's like you know that overhead, what is it called, when they announce a new processor and they show that image of how the sock looks. They tend to look like this. I think maybe that's what's being triggered in my head. But yeah, that's something I'll also keep in mind. Alright, so that's it for this page. Let's go on to the next one. This is from Casino Royale. Actually, these are all from some Bond. These two appear from Quantum of Solace. These two are from another one. I'm not sure which one. So this, I really like the black and white. The completely black, the white that's coming on top contrast very well. Misclick once more. This graph is also really cool, especially the way it's divided, and then you have all these small numbers down here. The small numbers don't even make sense. I can't even see what they are, but I really like how it's segmented. Like you have the white and the black lines in between. And also these sort of stepping things in the background look pretty cool. Same goes over here. The black and white, the particles, the really thin lines are cool. We have the same grid thing going on down here, although the text is slightly different. You can see some are on, some are off, some have more text, some have less. There are icons here, so that variation also looks pretty cool. But what I liked from Quantum of Solace is this theme they had, where they had this icon, and this icon seemed to be where everything comes from. So you'll see like this title is tied to this, then the line goes like this, then this goes this way and goes into text as well, and then the card sort of pops out of that, and then this one it's sort of on both sides. But we also have this curve that's following this curve here. That looks really nice. There's also a curve hidden over here, and this circle at the edge is also highlighting. The way we have a circle and a curve, we also have here circle, curve. So these two are kind of complementing each other. Yay, this time I have a video. So let's see. Goodbye, Epic Pen. And let me show you these from Quantum of Solace. I hope the frame rate is okay. So see the two lines, that's sort of the theme going on, and you'll see as we go along. Oof, delicious. More grids. Oh my goodness. I need to go back, sorry. That's really dope. I really like this. That. Very dope. So this was a running theme throughout the whole movie. All the gadgets, the phones, the laptops, the briefing screen, they all had the same theme. So also props to the developers in this fictional universe who just make everything consistent. And the spinning thingy at the end for the icon. So yeah, these guys, this was a really cool concept. They didn't go so futuristic as most of the stuff we're used to seeing. This is more design like. I'd even say Behance sort of depressing level design style. Um, you'll also see how they interact with this circle and use it to spin around. But then I start to wonder, wait a second, he pressed it and then twisted it to zoom. But then on this other one, he pressed and something else happened. So how does it know? How how does it know he didn't want to zoom in at this point? I don't know. But usually by the time you're thinking about such things, like the movie is over and all the actions happened, and you've completely even forgotten about this kind of thing. So this is really dope. This really stuck with me when I watched the movie, and I thought it was really important. I have it here as well. So this thing of a running theme going throughout the whole project is also dope. Here's another one. So now we're going into shaky territory of, is it good or is it bad? This for the good, I'd say the grids down here are really dope, especially the way some are bigger than others. Here you have a thin strip of, oh man, this happens every time. You should see me in Maya when I'm trying to use Epic Pen. I also do this. I try to draw and end up rotating things and moving things. So this is this grid down here is really dope. I like these sort of test grids that they have for. You also get these on a software called, oh my god, it's going Mad Mapper, which is for projection mapping. It has a lot of these nice grids, so you can use those as placeholders or just stuff to make it look nice. This globe here is also pretty nice. I think it has that gyroscope feel that we saw before. Whoever mentioned that, props. I'm stealing it from now on. Gyro sort of look here, which is pretty cool. But we also have random numbers just floating around that don't seem to make sense. These are okay by me, but this two, this one, they just seem to be making it messy. I think we could live without these, or at least it would look a bit better without these ones here. Right then,
My opinion,
Uh-huh.
they would have done there,
Mm-hmm.
they would have color coded the axes. You get. Then you have the info like neatly on the side instead of having them in there then spinning. Because even if, like, let's assume you're actually going to read this thing in whatever, if it's a plane, if it's like in a suit or whatever,
Yep.
all that flashing in front of your eyes will actually be distracting.
Yep. You just need to know which way is up. You don't need all this stuff. Yeah. So even readability. That's actually something that was mentioned in the HUDs and GUIs. Is that readability? Like, if this thing looks like it's supposed to be something important, it should be readable instantly. I'll actually get to that when we get into the real stuff. Now we get into the shaky area of things. Of course, what are we doing here if we don't have some Iron Man stuff? So this is from Iron Man 1. It's either Iron Man 1 or Avengers. I believe it's Iron Man 1 where they had this widget which was one for everything. And now this is a definition of making sense. Because what they've done is they've segmented everything. So here you have flight control. So you have like what appears to be a compass, probably not a compass. Here you have what looks like thruster strength, I guess. This looks like a compass. You come over here, you have these gauges that are showing rotator, multi-laser. Wow, okay. But there's these gauges, percentages, some red text you can't really see. I really like these, what are they called? Chiclets? These here. They look really dope. Some are filled up, some are not, some are red, orange, green, some are inside, some are out. So in this case, it sort of looks like a status indicator, like these ones overheating, but this one's ready to work, and these ones over here disengaged to cool or whatever. I don't know. But it just looks like it has some meaning to it, which is really cool. Up here 614 knots, this must be the speed. So it looks like this is an indicator as well up here, and I guess it's showing minimum. And then suit diagnostics. So here we have, the suit itself is sort of pointing and showing important information on this side, like his heart rate and all this stuff. So you can see also in terms of hierarchy that this, I would say for sure, is the most important thing Tony Stark wants to know at any time. The suit status, the core temperature, the RT, the power he has available, his own health, that stuff that would be important. So in a design of something like this, you'd make all those really, really big. Then as information becomes less and less important, it becomes smaller. I'd say that this section here is the next most important thing when it comes to how our eye reads this. And then we could say this is third, and then all this other stuff is number 4. So like this, I didn't even see these until now. Even these, I didn't even know these were here. But they're there, and they're filling in this empty space here that's being created once you have your priority stuff in there. It's a really cool idea. There's also another one here of what could be a gyro, but not exactly. This time it's just a circle with the car inside. There's some sort of atom-like dotted lines. I don't know if you guys can see those in Hangouts, because I know it compresses all things to hell, but there's like really nice dotted lines going around like this. Really dope. So this directly you can tell is just the car. These must be buttons. Once I press this button, it probably opens up and shows stuff about the battery, stuff about the brakes, stuff about settings, shocks, engine, whatever. So dope. Then this one now was a bit weird for me. It's somewhere in the middle. I don't know if it's good or if it's bad. I don't know if I like it or not. I like these lines again. They've appeared again. So these lines are really something I like. I need to remember that. And then these charts here are pretty dope. Really tiny information up here looks cool. I like this chart. It breaks up this monotony here nicely. But this, not so much, because it just looks like a bunch of shapes. They're overlapping. You can't really tell where one stops, where the next one starts. So yeah, maybe when it's moving and animated, it looks better. But right now, not so much. Yeah. So basically, that's the process you go through when you're just doing the research phase. You're just going through as many images as you can and looking at what you like, what you don't like, and especially when you see the same thing multiple times. Like this grid is a good example of something I've liked in multiple things that we've come to so far. Those lines that are, oh my god, we should do a tally of how many times I do that. These lines that go like this are really cool. I think I've seen those in multiple designs. So that tells me that me as a person, me specifically, I like those lines. It's not necessarily it's gonna make it good. It means that's what I like. And you as an artist, you're putting together stuff that you like, and you have the taste and the eyes to see what's dope, put them together and make something dope. And that's what your style is at the end of the day. There's an art group I'm in, and there's a guy who asked, how do you find your style? And one of the mentors replied saying, style is your preference. It's just what you like. If you're an artist and you're drawing and you like to draw round eyes instead of, realistic eyes, or if you like to draw eyes with brown irises or yellow, whatever, that's your style, or whatever you prefer, that's your style. So as you build on this stuff, as you learn what you like and you learn how to show that more and show it better so that people see it the way you see it, hey, well, that's all. That's what we're trying to do, all of us. So anyway, this is a really cool one as well. Lots of circles. I really like circles. This also has those chiclets, as I'm gonna call them now. This is a nice looking compass. If it is not a compass, it definitely looks like a compass because of these two arrows. Yeah, and also these fading boxes look pretty cool. Uh huh.
That thing, the thing you just pointed at, like the compass, it's a clock.
This one. Is it?
Check 0 1 2.
Oh yeah, 12. Oh my goodness. How is
No,
this?
it's not.
Okay.
No, it's not.
It
Are you able?
it
Zero
is.
one two three
Look.
four five six seven eight nine. It is a
This is
clock.
12. This is April, May, Feb,
Yes, it is.
Jan, Monday,
Yeah.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, it's actually a really complicated time clock calendar thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's this other one on the other side, which is also quite cool.
This one. Maybe
Oh, shit. Nice.
same thing actually. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
This is
Thursday.
beautifully well designed.
This is really clever. Actually, these two are the same
This is
thing. Because here's the 12 again. Here's the 12 again.
yeah.
The dates. There's a timer in here this time. Hmm. So I think even the idea of this scale, that there's a scale here. Oh my god, I'm going to go nuts. I think I'm going to close Epic Pen now. This scale, we have a scale like this, and then one of them is highlighted. You'll see it's also happening here with the date and here with the day. I think that's pretty nice. But yeah, this is really clever. It also has the same look to it that there's nothing really being indicated, especially on this big guy here. Um, but it still looks pretty cool. It looks like an arc reactor from Tony. But this is not Avengers related. Anyway, cool. Let's go on to the next one, which is from Oblivion. You guys watched Oblivion? Done for Tom Cruise. There was this lady seated at a desk, and like it was a really big desk, and then it turned out it was actually a comp. It was a touch screen. It was so dope because of the way it was arranged. I think the arrangement for me was the best thing because there's a sort of grid thing going on. Everything is inside boxes, and all the boxes seem to align, but then they're also broken up. Like you can see here, tech number 49, pilot Jack Harper. Okay, that's his jet. And then this is now showing the drones. So you can kind of tell this is drone status. More information down here. I really, really liked this comlink thing she had here. I'm gonna lose my mind. This comlink thing she had here. This on and off buttons are really cool. So this is on, so you'd see the voice thing happening here, and then off for command. Really nice. This, especially this guy is down here. I really like. Actually, forget this. This thingy here with a line, different lines, and they sort of move differently to each other. I like that style as well. Here we have the grid. The grid shows itself again. Inside this box, there's also that grid thing happening. There's a grid inside these letters. Like, man, all the way. Even these dots. These dots down here are really cool. And then they flash randomly. Those look dope. So Oblivion, really awesome movie. Check out the breakdown for this if you can find it. There's some really dope work done there. This one is a CCTV system. Found it on ArtStation. Just some random artist made for his own projects. This is what I'd call a high frequency detail, in terms of there's a lot of really tiny things. Especially these down here. There's a grid here, and the grid is like really fine. The text here is really, really small. These buttons up here that look like you could probably press them, but they're not. They're too small to even tell what they are, but they're there. Some are on, some are off. Same here. These lines here. There's a symmetry going on here, sort of to go with a 4-screen layout. This one kind of makes sense. Like I guess I could say these are the playback controls for this. And then the screens themselves also have a really nice effect to it. And down here, this gauge sort of thing here, which looks like a bunch of geometric shapes, is also really cool. It looks like maybe a drone. Maybe these are the propellers, and you can see the status of the individual propellers. Maybe, I don't know. But also down here, this text, this sort of CMD. Maybe I can do this. this CMD sort of box down here is also really nice. Yeah, same thing is happening here. These buttons are also pretty cool. They look a lot like the buttons on a what are these things called? This is live streaming gadgets, and you need to choose which screen you're looking at. They look pretty cool. I'm sure that's where they got the inspiration from. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the alternative of what looks like this is Fruity Loops. The pattern editor also has this look when you're making beats. So that's nice. Here's another one for Halo that was made for Halo. I remember why I did that. This is just delicious. For lack of a better term, it just looks really, really dope. So what about it is making it look really, really dope? We have the old color thing where we have blue on this side and this orange is dominating on this side. So this is like highlighting the character actually and just making them stand out from the rest of the menu. I don't think it's serving any other purpose other than that. These just look really nice. They look like glass. You can see that they have a glow, but the glow is inconsistent. Like there's no real reason. Usually when you add a glow to an object, it just glows the whole thing. But there's no real reason for this, like here to be thinner and here to be brighter. So that's a really nice effect. And there's also an inner glow, so it looks like it's darker on the inside than the outside. So it's dark on the inside and shiny on the outside. And if you've done renders or you've done some drawing and you've tried to fake glass, this is actually precisely how you do it. Inner glow, a dark inner glow, this sort of glass thing where it's inconsistent, and also the glow now on the outside. And you see also generally there's just a glow on everything. This campaign text looks nice. It also has a glow at the top, sort of only on the top half, and it's also casting a shadow. So there's this illusion being created that there's a light up here shining down on everything. And now, because these are particularly made of glass, they're now shining out of the light that's being produced. I think even to some degree I could say it looks like this light here is what's causing this Osiris to look the way it does. So there's a lot of design cues and interesting things being done here. Go ahead.
Also, like you see the glow around it. Sometimes I've seen, like for HUDs, what they do, the consistent glow is usually like to show motion. Like like when you highlight something.
Oh yes.
The glow go around like that.
Yeah, it looks like it's moving like this. Yeah. And also, this would also be doing the same thing. You just have it constantly moving. Maybe this also goes this way. Like they go different directions. So that can look nice. Alright, cool. Thanks for adding that. Here are some more. This is actually from the concept designs that they were doing. So you can see there's a dark version, a light version. And I don't know. You guys tell me, which one do you prefer, light or dark? Between these two. That's one for dark. Anyone else? No? Okay. I'm also for dark, by the way. I like this. I really like this because the icons also stand out nicely from the background. But this also has some appeal to it because it's silvery, so the white is also really nice. The glow in the back is also darkish blue. It's not really white, so it feels more like glass, like a translucent glass. Did someone want to say add something?
No,
Oh.
I agree with you.
Cool, dope. All right, so yes, now we're done looking at the fictional ones. So any questions so far, or anything you guys would like to add that you've noticed in the process in terms of these fictional ones? I guess not. Okay, so let's proceed. So let's look at real ones. So the one I mentioned earlier from Starship Troopers was actually based on a real one, and this is actually what they look like. And you can see, man, Does anyone want to say something about this before I start? I get going. How do you guys feel about these UIs? Do they make sense? Are they clear?
The top right one
Uh huh.
is quite retro, like it has that Sony 1980s feel.
Like an old TV?
Yeah, like an old TV. Almost
Okay.
like what was that game? There's that game that had that interface.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one color. Everything's the same size. Especially that everything is the same size, like this and this, and they all okay. They seem to be the same size. There's also uh huh, uh huh. Hey, what happened? Okay. Um, these two are actually the same. So in the flying guys, they have what's called a flight director, and it does the job of multiple instruments. So you'll see here you have speed on this side, you have altitude on this side, and then in the middle you have that thingy that looks like for Pajeros. You know that sort of compass thing in the middle of a Pajero that shows you which direction it's oriented.
I've been in a Pajero.
There's a very specific Pajero Kwanzaa. It's not even these new ones. The old ones. They used to have this.
What?
They used to have this AH. Oh man, let me see if I can get it. Pajero stabilizer. No, not Link. Oh my god. What would it even be called? Pajero artificial horizon. Okay, yeah, this picture shows it right here. This one here.
Oh yeah.
You know it now.
It
Huh?
actually looks familiar.
Maybe you've been in a Pajero. If you
I
didn't-
think so.
yes, so that's the one I'm talking about. These these guys have the same thing. Um, well, it's actually from aircraft, so it came from. So the same thing happens here in the middle. They have that indicator as well. And here's another more complex one. But the army style, this sort of green. Now, these guys are usually trained to read these instantly. It's not really made to just look at it as a normal person and know what it is. Because if you really think about it, when you're out there flying, you're in a dogfight, and if you hesitate for a split second, you're basically dead. These guys just need to have numbers in front of their faces. Me, I just want to know what my speed is. I don't need to see a graph. I don't need to see a gauge. I just need to know if I'm going faster than whoever this guy is, or if I try to brake now, whether the G's are gonna kill me. So that's why you'll find designs like these where it's just numbers in the air. But for us guys, we like to watch movies and we need to see futuristic things. And also for us as viewers, we also want to be able to see and tell what it's indicating. Because once we can tell, it means it gives it some authenticity. Even though it's something completely ridiculous, like someone definitely in the army would not use that. But the purposes are different. These ones are made to be read easily, whereas the ones we're making are meant to give information easily, whereas the ones we're making are meant to be read easily and just look nice. So that's one big distinction between the real ones and what we're doing. Here's another one. This is the flight director now. This is what you find in jets, the airliners that fly guys across the country. So they used to have this. This is what pilots in the smaller planes use. This one, you have the artificial horizon here, you have the airspeed here, you have altitude here, there's a compass here, turn indicator, and this is vertical speed. It's how fast you're going, climbing or descending in feet. So what they did for the bigger jets, because they're like, this some bullcrap, they made these, which is now flight director. So you'll find it has that compass thing the oh my god, it has the horizon here. It has the airspeed on this side, it has the altitude on this side, and it has the compass at the bottom. And then that turn indicator is actually this pink thingy here. So when you turn, it moves up and down, and also the horizon here would move like this when you turn. So they sort of combined everything into one. But you'll see also the way stuff is ordered is still the same. You still have this in the middle. Right below it is the compass. To the left is airspeed. To the right is altitude. And to the right of that is where they put the vertical speed. So this T shape you get here, you'll find over here is the same. So altitude thingy, compass at the bottom, airspeed on the left, altimeter on the right. That's not so much something that applies. Right, so I was saying, flight director, it's not necessarily something that will apply to us, but it's definitely worth something interesting to know, because when we come down to this is another view they have. These are the engines. You have this is for weather, I think, and then here's the same flight director. So now instead of having all those individual dials, individual counters like this, you're now just looking at one screen, which especially on a jet is important because you have a lot of things to worry about.
Yeah.
Okay, so right, so here is some more indicators. These are more like just realistic ones, just to see what real ones look like. And interestingly, I liked this one because it's 0 to 50, but it has 1, 2, 3 scales, and that's pretty random, but weirdly looks nice. And that was something interesting for me. In the sense of what was happening up here, if we got these gauges down here and we had to do the same and make this into one, I think that's when we'd consider now putting the same principle of trying to leave MPH here, find a way to put fuel here and maybe oil here, and then temp and volts, so that and maybe RPM also down here, so that now we have generally the same arrangement, but also still, you know, kind of cool. It looks a bit better now. So just think about that kind of thing. Even here, the same can apply. We could make a new gauge and say if this was going to be a straight line indicating like this, let's say MPH, we'd have to arrange these in a way, say maybe like this. And then this one, since it's a bit bigger, I don't know, maybe even this way, or this way, or even up here in this empty space. But now we've broken the arrangement, so maybe these four would come here, and then this longer one would come up here. But yeah, you get the general gist of what I'm saying. Yeah. So let's go to the next slide. This one is more on realistic things. This is a heart rate monitor from hospitals. There's also some factory indicators here for pressure, and you know, there's some buttons you can press. There's also this one that has some tabs. This is god ugly, my goodness. And this one down here was really cool because it has these sort of the two circles, and then they're joined together, and you have the indicators in the middle. I can't really remember where this is from, but I thought it's really cool, and it's from a real thing. So whatever that is, I hope it's as dope as its controls. Next we have interfaces from cars. So we have these guys seem to really like just showing you your car. I think it's an issue of we have a really big screen and not so much info to put on it. So they'll just throw the car on there so that you can also feel OG that, you know, my car. So these ones also follow the same conventions of the analog versions. So you'll find temp on one side, fan speed on the other. It's still using this old school indicator even though it's a screen. Same over here. And well, this one down here is just a menu. I think it looked pretty retro. It has this early 2000s, late 90s look of gradients and and these lines and black looks really cool to me. All right, so that's it for the. Whoops, I should have a more dramatic transition. So those are some real indicators. There's some of the stuff or in different ways of how we can also implement them into our design so that they look a bit realer and cooler. All right, so next up we're going to look at the bad examples of stuff that doesn't look so nice. So this is an example of one that really stood out to me. This one here, it has the same issue as Avengers. It's not really showing anything, it's not saying anything, and worse off, everything's overlapping. Like you can tell this is one piece, but you can't really tell what's in front of it, what's behind it. It's all just becoming a big mess over here. There's another big mess happening over here. Like this whole core is just bright and white, which I don't really like. So I feel like maybe there'd be some drop shadow or some depth, like they fade away as they go away from us. I think that would help a lot. Mm-hmm.
Like a cross-section view.
Mm-hmm.
So like instead of showing us everything,
Uh-huh.
then they start overlapping.
Mm-hmm.
You could actually do like a cutaway section. You get
Yeah.
Like upper katikati, so that you can actually see the core vizuri.
And then you see
how the
it's like
layers interact.
like each of the pieces are like this,
Yes.
and then this one is like this. Yeah,
That would have been better design.
that would look way better and make a bit more sense as well. So cool. This other one over here is also one of the random ones. If you type in HUD and you start getting Shutterstock suggestions, these are the things you get. So here there was an attempt for sure, the person and the DNA, that looks cool, but I think this whole construct in the middle is just ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Just looks like a bunch of nice shapes. Same goes here, even this piece here, this piece here. This looks like he just took this and split up all the layers so you could see them together. Not so cool, not really showing anything. If they had numbers inside, I think that would look really cool. Same goes for this one. These down here, I think, are not so bad because they can be icons indicating different things. Based on their placement, that is, because it's like these icons down here for Windows. They could come off as buttons. Same for these ones here, but now we have two, so which is more important? These graphs not so bad, but also don't seem to be indicating anything. So this one, just in general, I think is the mess that's happening, and especially this piece up here. Like, come on, man, that was unnecessary. But one thing I really like from this is this. We have a circle here in the middle, and then these ones on the side seem to have like this perspective to them. These guys here. So I think that's a cool look. Maybe if it translated the same to the bottom. These lines made it look like maybe he was, but I don't think so anymore. But this here is cool. It's actually cool. Actually, I'd say this is doing something. These lines, the way they sort of look like they're pointing in and following this perspective, it plays a part in just helping the kind of idea I'm thinking about, because that's what these lines are also doing. This line, this line, this line. Same here. These are literal arrows. He's even drawn the arrows for me. Nice. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Aside from this really bad center. And then this one, I'd say, is mainly just color. The November, the Thanksgiving, it's just, there's no glow to it. I think they should have a glow. And in terms of something real to it, like you see how here it sort of glows very brightly in the middle, and then out here it's not really glowing. I think this doesn't have that, so it doesn't look like it's a hologram. If this was like really white, and then we had like some random white lines coming out, and then this also glowed, then it look just a bit better. I think also the color here is red, blue, green, then yellow. Not really a good mix. And then finally, this one here. I would say this looks cool. This looks really cool. This windows here look cool, but everything now on this side not so much. I don't know. I think it's just that it's just floating text in a blue panel. But I also kinda got peeved that this text and this text is all backwards, but this one is all forwards. Like you can actually read these, but you can't read these. So like who's all this meant for? Is it him reading, or he's showing me the table and reading this at the same time? Thanks for multitasking, I guess. I don't know. But that's that one. Wait a second. Okay. Another more examples of not so nice ones. This one now is just too much glow. Can't really see what it's indicating, so it just looks busy for nothing. This one also is just fairly busy here in the middle. I think this going round is nice. These arrows are okay. I think this shapes here are just a bit too complicated, and this one here in the middle as well. This one is actually pretty okay. I think this numbers could go because they're not really showing much. But the general idea of just the geometric shapes, this one is a bit emptier in the middle, so it looks cleaner. Out here, these boxes are very minimal, so they're not so invasive. They look okay. I like that one in a way, but the numbers just kill it for me. Same here. These would be nice as as reticles, or as parts of something, like maybe overlay these on top of each other. You could get something interesting, but individually I don't think they work so well. This one, I think this is too much. It could have passed as a crosshair aiming at someone, but this thing in the middle is too obstructive for my liking. And then this one is just 90s, like clean straight up. If you've ever used Winamp and you saw the skins Winamp used to have back in the day, that's what this is reminding me of, and that's not a good thing. So no, it's a no from me. So that's it for the UIs. Any more questions? Any observations you guys would like to add as well in terms of what's working and what's not working? Huh? What? They're talking about Winamp. Starting to get an idea now of how old I am. They don't even know what that is. Oh man.
Dude, you've broken it down so well. I really like the breakdown.
Awesome. Eh? His mic just go off.
That frame you're talking.
Oh,
Oh, my mic is off.
it's cutting off. Imagine not even done. We still have 8 more slides.
I have to leave you. I have to go watch Manchester being thrashed.
Okay, so I'll rush through quickly. Are you going now?
But I'm carrying the phone, so I'll follow along.
Okay. So I'll just proceed. But I'm glad you've picked something out, because this was also the most important part. So it's good you got all that. Dope. All right. So let's recap. What information did we get from these designs? The good. I like gradients. I like the lens effects, circles and circular arrangements, thin lines, dotted lines, scale indicators, ticking numbers, dots, monochrome icons. It's basically just a long list of everything I saw good and bad in terms of the design. So that as I now go into Photoshop, or as I grab my pen and paper, this is the stuff I'm going to be thinking about. So even with those references that I've shown before, this slide is more important than all the others, because now this is an interpretation of what I've seen in all those, so I don't need to go back and look at them and be like, what was it I liked about this one again? Crap. Nah, it's now all written down. So I've made 2 columns, the good and the bad. There's also one for animation, so the same thing, depth of field, animations coming in reading order. We have some are fast, some are slow, color changes for status, just basically just write as much as you can from all the stuff that we've seen. So the Pinterest, the HD GUI, the Halo Wars, Quantum of Solace. I can't believe we did not watch Iron Man heads-up displays. I guess I forgot to show them because I got pretty tired of watching them actually, because I could actually read them out off head. But one thing I wanted to say out of this Iron Man ones is, if you look at the early ones, they don't look as good, especially now after we've watched Infinity War and Endgame. They don't look so interesting. But as time goes by, you see the style changes. So like here we have whites and red. Here we had blues. In the ones he made for Rhodey, especially Rhodey's UI was green. This guy, because I guess he's a bad guy in the movie, his UI was red and pretty basic actually. The idea was that his is a shady version of Tony's, so it doesn't look as good. They actually went more for that military style of just keeping things simple. This eye thing, I really hate this eye thing. I'm sorry guys, but this thing just pisses me off, because it's just on your eye, like it's not even doing anything. It's like, what? Okay. Anyway, so you see the style changes as they go along, and if you check out the breakdowns, they actually explained the things they were thinking about when developing these, which is each widget sort of has a use. Like this is for navigation, this is for calls, this is for blah blah blah. They talked about the tech of how they even got the reflections of these thingies in his eyes, which is surprisingly easy actually. It's not even some rocket science. It was just adding a few nodes to Nuke. So yeah, as we go by, we get more of these out of focus, sort of gradienty. There's like a weird fog inside the helmet as the movies go on. This one has a nice platform in front of him, which I think was really cool. Yeah, I like this. This was when he was catching guys in the air and he had a UI that was showing that they're all getting connected together, whereas this one was showing in the flight, and then he's getting warnings here. Like, everything was just making sense, and like you don't have to be Tony to enjoy all this stuff. Cool. That's Iron Man HUDs. So also check those out for the animation references. You can do 2 pages, one for design and one for animations, so that you get the best of both worlds. So design we'll be thinking about when we're doing the sketches, animation we'll be thinking about when we're executing. Alright, so let's design our own HUDs now. We've spent almost an hour now looking at different designs, deciding what we like, what we don't like. So now we take to Photoshop or pen and paper and decide to design our own. So this should not be here, but okay. Just a quick recap of the process. We have the research, planning, execution, and improving. So look online at what people have done before. In the planning, we're going to choose the style, the arrangements, the color scheme, and then we'll get into execution and improvements as we go. So now we're on planning. Don't worry, it's not going to be as long as the other segments. This first one was the longest one. I promise. The rest is going to be pretty quick. So here are some examples of drawings I made as I was thinking about how to go about developing my own. I took some of the examples from the flight director of making this altimeter. I just made it one for one for what it looked like, just to get an idea, a feeling, get my hands really getting that idea of drawing UIs. Also made this compass design here, turn coordinator, copied. This is the airspeed indicator that we saw before. There's this UI of like something magnifying, so it shows you that it's magnifying. So this is another example of where you're trying to think of, when I'm showing the UI, what's the most important thing? Is it the magnification, that it's times 3? Maybe, But this information down here of distance and such are probably also equally important. So that's what now you start thinking about. Maybe this should be bigger, or maybe this should be smaller. Here's some more UIs in general. I was trying out different grid arrangements, the lines I was talking about that I really liked. Down here, we also have that grid that I was saying was cool. I tried to just make my own. And then you just go ahead and just do the same thing. Here's those gauges I was showing you earlier. Here's an attempt at the Iron Man one as well. Here's the stack that we saw from Dead Space mixed up with just some other ideas of charts and graphs. Here's some icons. And then this is from that car one that we saw with different buttons that do different things. So I wanted to see if I was to add like a gauge of some kind. This is where I'd put them, and this is how they'd look. Then on this end, the car one again, some more graphs from the heart monitor, another attempt at the artificial horizon, the one we saw from the Pajero, another graph. Remember those lines I was saying looking like this that I really liked? Well, I tried this thing we used to do in high school. I think it was this one. Was it Primo or high school? Did you guys ever do this chart thing? Where you draw, let's see. You draw a grid like this, an axis like this. Draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So then you connect like number 5 to number 1, number 2 to 4, like that. And eventually you get this nice curve shape. I cannot even remember what class that was, but it was definitely a class we were taught that. So I tried to reverse it and draw the curves in the opposite direction, and that didn't look so nice. I actually thought it would come out like this for some reason, but it came out this way. Still the same thing, but just looks worse. So this is better. Tried to do it in a 4-star arrangement. Tried the same thing over here, just to see how it looks. Not really going anywhere. And then here's another one of trying to do some indicators, some paths showing like something is flying a specific way. This was like we're tracking a target. When we lock onto the target, it shows this. When we've shot down the target, we show this little icon here. So the idea here I was chasing was when we're tracking, we're not really so loud on how the indicator is. But here it's like showing these dots and showing these X to really show you it's locked on. Like now you're ready to perform an action. And then down here we have down, which is like the plane, you've shot it down. So this is just an indicator to show you where they crashed. So I added this path thing just to sort of see where that can go. Some distance indicators as well, also just to see where it will go. And same thing over here. So let's say you were tracking and then someone clicked on this. They want to see more information. So here's one example of whoopsie. Here's one example of what that would look, saying Mombasa is 15 minutes away, you'll arrive at 6:08. Here's another one showing a ship, and like would show the shipment it has, and then on this other side we show like what it's heading and speed and all that stuff is, just to add some extra info and to also show more. So once that was done, it was now going into After Effects. Yeah, so that's it for this PowerPoint part. You guys have any questions concerning this sketching part or drawing or coming up with the ideas?